welcome to another episode of Attacking Third. I'm Sandra Herrera, CBS Sports lead NWSL writer, joined today by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, NWSL analyst and play-by-play caller, coming to you live from a canceled flight. And we got a lot of games to get through today. Jam-packed action, full of NWSL own goals, red cards. I mean, it's just endless now. Again, it's another weekend that really just felt like it had everything. Once again, let's get through it. Only 4 games to get through for this weekend. Kansas City and Racing Louisville FC had a bye week. Let's start getting into some of these matches. But first, Lisa, how you doing? You doing okay today?
I am good. I mean, yeah, I'm doing great. We had good games this weekend, like you mentioned, Sandra. And honestly, with only 4 games, I don't know why I was being very naive. I was like, oh, it won't be like so crazy hectic. But what am I talking about? It's the NWSL. We had an NWSL after dark game. Things are off the walls. I'm good. I'm ready to dive into it. Sandra, how are you doing? You cracked open a seltzer right before we started recording, so I know you're hydrated. I love to see that.
I just wanted to treat myself along with all of these games that we just watched. I mean, kicking off things on Saturday, really the only matchup taking place on Saturday. We had a triple header for Sunday, and we'll dive right into that soon for you all. But North Carolina Courage versus Houston Dash ended up in a 2-1 win for Houston. I remember previewing this game, you and I, Lisa, and just sort of wondering a little bit about how these two teams were going to look going into this match, what the bounce back was going to be, because they were both coming off of losses. And if I remember correctly, we both gave advantage to North Carolina a little bit just because they were going to be the home side. And we just felt that might have given them a little bit of extra oomph going into this game. But really, we should have known that this weekend was going to be as wild as it was, because this match had multiple goals. But a number of them were actually called off, and this game ended up 2-1 in favor of Houston, who really just ended up having a great response, quite frankly, on the road against this North Carolina Courage side. So kudos to them for picking up the win. What were some of your main takeaways coming out of a match like this?
For Houston, traveling to Wake Med Soccer Park, it's hard to play on the road, and especially in a town where the Courage reside. They have a really strong fan base. So I think that's why we leaned a little bit towards North Carolina's side during this one. And honestly, on paper, North Carolina played well. The stats wise, they had 12 shots compared to Houston's 5. Their passing count was nearly double what Houston had. But like you mentioned, 2 goals called back for offside, one on Jess McDonald, one on Kristen Hamilton. It it was a very interesting matchup. I was pleasantly surprised with how Houston played. They were incredibly patient whenever they had the ball, because breaking down a Courage side is hard. You have to be patient to find the right pass to unlock the defense and get in behind. And Houston was really patient. They kept the ball, they moved it quickly in transition, and honestly, they capitalized on their opportunities. On paper, North Carolina had more opportunities than Houston did. However, when Houston got those opportunities, they finished them, and North Carolina, they just didn't. Maybe some missed calls here and there. I know Paul Riley was not too pleased in his post game talk. However, the Dash, they capitalized on it, and they surprised me throughout this game. I wasn't expecting a lot of firepower from them. Gabby Seiler taking her opportunity during this Olympic stretch. That's a player that James Clarkson said has really stepped up. She's looking to get more time, and she did. She got the goal in this game, the game winner. She took that set piece, and it was her first NWSL goal. So congrats to Gabby Seiler. Huge on her. And I really think Katie Naughton and Diane Caldwell did a nice job in the back. I know we talked about it a little bit in the preview, but Abby Ursig out, and then pieces sliding around, but interesting matchup. And then Shea Groom getting her 100th NWSL appearance. So a couple milestones happening there, and Shea Groom also scoring a goal in this game, because what else does Shea Groom do? I liked this game. I liked this game. I was pleasantly surprised, and goals are always fun. I love when teams score goals. What did you think, Sandra? Were you impressed with Houston? Were you surprised with them? Were you unimpressed by North Carolina?
Maybe honestly a little bit of a mix of both. I think this talk about a real scene setter for the weekend of games. I thought this was pretty appropriate. I think, head coach Paul Riley said it best, I think, when he was evaluating his team in the post game comments there. He said that the team looked really great tonight, except for the first few minutes of that second half, that it looked like the team stayed in the locker room, and that the game, quite frankly, should have been put to bed by halftime if you're looking at the Courage and their side of things. But I think it was a little bit of a mix of both. I guess, to answer your question, I think that Houston had a great response to what North Carolina Courage was presenting them. They had a really early breakthrough on goal from Jess McDonald, a beautiful looking goal that was ultimately called, disallowed because it was ruled offside, even though we've been seeing a lot on the replay. And a lot of these goals are looking like really, really close calls. So that goal was disallowed. And then to just sort of have the type of response that they had, and the goal that they scored, and from somebody like Shea Groom, it was just sort of one of these things where it's like you don't see that too often against this North Carolina Courage side. Just really impressive positioning, and just being able to time her run correctly and just sort of take advantage, quite frankly, of the space that they gave her. And Kaylee Kurtz just pretty much alluded to as much, when speaking about the center back pairing and their performance on the night. She said straight out, like, I think Diane, referring to Diane Caldwell, that the both of them had to build up some chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
because that they hadn't played together in quite some time. So taking a little bit of accountability on that one. But North Carolina Courage is always a tough team to play. But Houston Dash it's a new era Dash, right? James Clarkson said so himself, and to sort of kind of have that type of response, after having that goal, even though that goal was disallowed, like that can maybe rattle a
Mm-hmm.
team. You know what I mean? Especially if it's coming from the Courage, you're like, oh boy, here we go. Because the Courage have the ability to just sort of come and attack you with waves and waves and waves of pressure. But that didn't stop, the Dash from sort of sticking to their game plan and taking it to the Courage on the road. So,
Yes,
um,
and I will say that Jess McDonald looked way better in this match, partnered up with Kristen Hamilton up top, than she did last week in North Carolina's game. She played better. I believe that Paul Riley talked to her and said, "Listen, we need more from you. You can't be constantly checking back for the ball and looking to receive it at your feet. You're a forward. We play in over the top. You need to make dashing, darting runs across our opponent's back lines to get in behind. You can't be a lazy forward." Switching it up in training throughout the week. And I think Kristen Hamilton slotting into that position up top really, really worked. And then Kari Recaro sitting in that box midfield, doing a lot of the defensive work for North Carolina worked as well. But I mean, Houston picking off the passes in the middle of the park was great. And it's a bad turnover from North Carolina. They're going to watch that film, and they've made that mistake before throughout this regular season. And I hope for their sake they don't make it again, because it looks really, really bad. I mean, great job by Latsko to pick off that pass and find Groom on the run, and just so beautifully weighted on that through ball. But a tough one for North Carolina, a tough loss for them, and an incredible job by Houston, really capitalizing on every opportunity they got. They receive the ball, 1-2 touch, get a clinical shot off.
yeah, totally. I think if people get a chance to take a look at the highlights in this game in particular, they should definitely take a look at it. Some really good goals, even the ones that were disallowed. Take a look at, for all you young soccer players out there, a fun set piece goal for Gabby Seiler. Congrats to her on her first goal of the week, or goal of the
Yeah.
league. And it helped Houston climb the standings in this one and keep things tight and close and interesting in those NWSL league standings. And of course, again, like I said, scene setter, right? Rolling us into Sunday in a triple header. We had Washington Spirit and New Jersey, New York. Gotham FC. We had number 4 versus number 6, those two sort of middle table teams jockeying for position in this very crowded table. Spirit, again, with the preview in this one, I think we might have gave advantage of Spirit in this one just because again, you believe that the home side is maybe going to have the no travel and the comforts of being at home and not having to worry about that kind of stuff. But boy, oh boy, if we thought that North Carolina and Houston might have had a little bit of controversy, we had a little bit more in this one. Lisa, you called this match. This game had an early red card. Washington Spirit were playing down a player, so Gotham had a player advantage to them. And this one was a banger, folks. If you like goals that ended in 3-2, Gotham FC snatching up the win. Lisa, you got to give me your impressions of this match you were watching and calling it live.
This game was highly entertaining. I wasn't exactly sure what we were going to get. Actually, right before we recorded our open, I was talking to some producers and other people in the studio, and I was like, what do you think's going to happen? And someone predicted 2-1 Gotham. So close. They got 3-2, but I was not expecting this many goals from this Gotham side. They have not been consistent in their offense and in their attack going into this. They had 7 goals for, but I mean, the goals against is huge for Gotham. Heading into this matchup against Washington Spirit, only 3 goals against, and they let up 2 tonight against a side that only had 10 players on the field. It was early on, I believe the 7th minute. Margaret Purse driving down the center and gets tackled pretty hard right outside the box. It was on the line right outside the box. It's tough calls. A lot of people blaming the officials in this league right now, but I think it was a red card. I really do. Sam Staub grabbing the jersey of Midge Purse and pulling her down. There's no feet tangling up. That's not at all what it was. And she was the last defender. Purse was going in for a goal. Paige Nielsen was there, initially got the red card, and then center referee realized that no, Nielsen didn't even touch Purse. It's so interesting that they can talk to their side officials and get that insight, but no VAR. Come on, NWSL, get some VAR. We can watch that again. They can call it back. Maybe even the Buhati red card from last week would have been called back in game, but anyway, Sam Staub sent off early in this game, so Washington down a player. But Sandra, it did not stop them. Trinity Rodman on fire during this game. She hit her stride. I think it honestly, it pissed Washington off that
Yeah,
red
I would
card
imagine
happened.
so. They looked really unhappy from the sideline and then the bench all the way to the players on the pitch. That kind of stuff can maybe motivate you, and it looked like it did. Is that you said Robin got that breakthrough goal in the 13th minute?
She definitely did. Gotham, though, not far behind. They ended up leading at the half 2-1. Spirit getting their second goal in the second half. That one coming from Sanchez off a set piece. 2 free kick set pieces in 2 games in the NWSL. Saturday and then Sunday, Gabby Seiler and then Ashley Sanchez this time. We don't see that enough. We don't see those Messi-esque set piece goals enough in this league, and now we're getting them. So good juju, good vibes for more of those to come. But honestly, Gotham had a good game. Not defensively, not their best considering what they've done throughout this regular season. However, offensively, 3 goals, 3 different goals, different people scoring goals. Kawasumi, Zerboni, and then Purse finally getting that one at the end of the game. She deserved that one. I think she worked hard throughout this game and she did a lot. And Kawasumi, she does not get enough credit enough. Her goal, just a little tap in. I wish she would have scored an outside the box, 25 yards out, strikes it upper 90, because she can do that. We've seen her do that. But hey,
big. She's been
a
big
goal is a goal
right now. Yeah, she's been big for the team right now. In light of, Paige Monahan is really the forward that was previously tasked with getting the start up top for this team and put in a lot of great shifts, but she's, rehabbing from a hamstring injury and watching a veteran like Kawasumi doing what she's doing on that, attacking line with players like Anumanu, players like Purse has been very, very impressive. And we've been saying it for the last couple of weeks about some of these teams and how they're going to be looking during this Olympic stretch of games, and they're bringing it. This game was intense. It really was quite back and forth,
Hmm.
probably more than people might anticipate if they see a team go down a player disadvantage. But very, very entertaining on the least. And great to see somebody like McCall Zerboni get on that scoreboard, somebody who's been working her way back into the lineup with this Gotham FC side. This is a player that this franchise, quite frankly, made a move for to try to, kind of get some experience in the midfield for their team as they try to continue moving forward and sort of building on their, quote unquote rebuild, so to speak. And now she's getting consistent minutes. She's getting starts. This is their second consecutive start now in this regular season. And alongside somebody like Ali Long running things in the mid there, I think it's just kind of ensuring things up there
Yeah,
for
yeah.
this team. And then Purse, really with that game winner, it was a game that kind of had everything, and it again once again impacts the standings for both of these teams. Still close, still tight. Got them sealing up the win with this one and a 3-2 victory. And it didn't end there because there was still some there were still some more shenanigans to be had in this Sunday triple header. There was a Chicago Red Stars hosting OL Reign. And in this one, when I say that this weekend had everything, I mean it had everything, and it's very interesting to go back and look at each of these games and see how each of these games provided a little bit of that everything. Because in this game, Chicago Red Stars brought the own goals once again to the party, and it
Of
was
course they did.
delightful. It was absolutely delightful to see Chicago Red Stars defeat OL Reign 3-1 and forced two own goals once again in their this is the third consecutive game that the Red Stars have forced an own goal, and the second straight game where they forced two own goals. And they set the record for now. Who knows if the league will go back and take a look at some of these goals and they'll be credited otherwise. But for now, as of this recording, the Chicago Red Stars now hold the league record for most forced own goals with 5 in a season. What a stat. What a stat, Lisa. Oh my God. And like, honestly, quite frankly, unpredictable. I had the pleasure of going to cover this game in person as someone who's local to Chicago, went in, took in this game on the media side of things. And it looked to maybe be going OL Reign's way at first. I'm not going to lie. That first half felt
Hmm.
a little bit slow, kind of dragged a little bit. A little bit unsure of which way it was going to go, even though OL Reign got on that scoreboard first very early on in the 12th minute with a goal from Bethany Balser. Beautiful ball served in from Celia. There was a lot of great interlinking play. Watching some of these players get to play live, somebody like Jennifer Marozan, and seeing that interlinking play between her and Celia really kind of creating some things in Chicago's half there. So you see a team kind of come up with a goal like that, and you're like, oh, this is gonna maybe go OL Reign's way because they've got a lot of the momentum right now, but they really didn't generate anything else with that. Ended up closing that first half with about 2 shots on goal, 5 total shots to close out the first 45. And then Chicago went ahead and made some adjustments in this one. Lisa, they brought on Danny Colaprico to start the second half, and it really kind of shifted things around for them. And we started to see a player like Morgan Gautrat play a little bit more higher off of somebody like Colaprico and get more involved in the attack. And that is when we got to see these own goals really come to life. You're talking about in the 48th minute, an own goal happens. And then just minutes later, I believe it was in the 54th minute, a second own goal happens. But there's some magic going on behind some of these own goals. Mal Pugh has been an integral part of these own goals that Chicago has been forcing on their opposition, and that did not change on this day, Lisa. And Mal Pugh finally said enough. She said enough. She said enough, and it was enough. And then she actually slotted home a goal of her own to make it 3-1 for Chicago. And for a little bit, Lisa, a little bit before we get into the final game, Chicago was in first place for about a few hours on Sunday.
Hey, that counts. It counts a little bit. And the own goals are, I'm not really surprised. Chicago, Rory Dames, Malpew, they're watching the Euros. They saw what happened with own goal, lots of own goals in that one, and they wanted a little taste themselves. It like you said, OL Reign dominating in this first half. There's pieces missing for OL Reign. They have a lot of individual talent, like you mentioned, Marzan and Celia, Bethany Balcer getting good goals, and Fishlock and King, ELS, Les Sommer. I'm naming the whole roster, but they do. Their individual talent is very deep and they have so much skill, but the connection between the players is not there. And when you look at a team like Chicago, yes, they have a lot of talent with Malpew and even Colaprico stepping on in the second half to change the game essentially, and Watt up top. But a team like Chicago, they play so well together. They feed off of each other. They have rhythm, they have consistency, they have momentum in the game that builds as their players get better and they sink into that rhythm. And OL Reign, they're missing that. I do believe now Laura Harvey returning back to OL Reign is a really, really good move for them. She can try to provide some stability for this OL Reign side so they can get some momentum. But I'm kudos to Malpew in this game because she's been working her tail off to get goals and to contribute in the attack and really prove that she is one of the best goal scorers in this league. And she's part of both of those own goals that happened today for Chicago. And then she gets one on the board, and her goal tonight, just so beautiful, turning the defender, creating a little bit of space and just ricocheting that ball so hard, so fast. It was beautiful. That was a beautiful goal from Malpew, that third goal.
Yeah, it was really delightful to see sort of live and in person. And honestly, those own goals happened so quick and they were so chaotic
Hmm.
off of like some of those very close set pieces where you couldn't really tell whether or not if it was truly an own goal initially. But again, for now, they're being credited as own goal. So we'll see if that changes for any reason. We know that sometimes there's better angles and better footage for the league as they go and
Yes.
they review these things and these stats. So I know Tatum Milazzo was pretty
Yes.
close on that second goal for off the set piece there. So we'll see what happens there. But for now, that's your record-setting Chicago Red Stars with 5 own goals in one season. Believe in the magic, I guess, of
Heck
Malpew,
of a record to
Chicago.
have. Heck of a record. I mean, they'll take it, any goal they have. And yeah, I'm glad you gave a shout out to Tatum Milazzo because she occupied the goalkeeper and right in front of the goal on that corner kick, blocking the vision of Buati on the corner kick. So if anything, she should get the credit for it. I don't think she touched it though. I really don't think she
We'll,
did. I
we'll
think a
find
lot
out.
of Cook. Yeah.
Stay tuned, and we'll fill you all in on any updates on that front. To close out this triple header, though, on Sunday, Lisa, we had some NWSL After Dark action, official NWSL After Dark action. It was a 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, or excuse me, 10:30 Eastern Standard kickoff. So real NWSL Dark After Hours. Portland Thorns versus Orlando Pride. We were curious. We were like, what's going to happen in this match? And pretty physical match in this one,
Mhm.
Lisa, quite frankly. We had Portland going and getting up on the board early. Orlando trying to make a game of it a little bit later, but they end up getting the walking away with the win with this one. Portland defeats Orlando 2-1. And, this attack from Portland is so impressive. I feel like every time we're watching this Portland Thorns team, we're watching a very quick, very dynamic, very, very like just getting after it. Just this team is just getting after it on the pitch. And you're watching this team and you're like, oh man, this attack is going to go ahead and just put up like 3 or 4 goals, and then they just are like attacking at you in waves, and then they come away with like a 1 goal win or like a narrow one goal margin. It's one of those things, but really impressive stuff coming out of this game. Even though Orlando's walking away with a loss, I mean they're still showing you that they're a team that is hanging around. They are hanging around in these games, and they're doing their best to sort of still hang around in these standings, because this with this loss, it's Orlando's now their fourth consecutive loss after they went on a really impressive 7-game unbeaten streak to start off their season. So I think coming out of this game, Lisa, we're really seeing a team in Portland that still has a really dynamic attack, and quite frankly is showing us they really are the deepest team in the league. And then another team in Orlando that is still showing that they have that fight and is still showing that they're here to compete, but they're struggling a little bit with a lot of their pieces missing, whether it's been due to injury or whether it's somebody like a Morgan or an Alex Morgan or a Martha overseas in Tokyo for the Olympic Games.
Yes. So one thing you mentioned, Portland's attack. They have so many different weapons that they can use, and then they do narrowly get away with a goal. I know Mark Parsons, head coach for the Thorns, is saying that he wants more goals. He needs more things. This is not enough for Portland, but Orlando now on a bit of a decline. I don't know if I want to call it that quite yet because they still have really good pieces. I mean, Sydney Leroux, she's their weapon up top. Taylor Korniak got knocked around a little bit during this game tonight, and then Ashlyn Harris saving another penalty kick. It's so impressive to watch her. I think it's just a mental game now for opponents when they step up to that white dot, that white line, the penalty spot. They're like, okay, that she's gonna save this. They have to know that because that's exactly what she does. But taking a look at Orlando's record over the last couple of weeks, yeah, tie, a loss to North Carolina, a loss to Houston. Is it without Alex Morgan and Marta that they can't provide up top, that they can't provide those opportunities? I don't think so, but that's what it's proving right now, which is really disappointing for the rest of the Orlando squad because I believe in more than them. With Taylor Korniak, Crystal Thomas, Erica Timrak, they have good players that can do a lot, but during this game, the goals that we did get, Portland goals, really good. Holy cannoli, that first goal that we had from Sophia Smith was one of the best shots I've seen. She has
Oh
so
yeah.
much space in front of her. The defenders are crashing in all around her, and she just calm, cool, collected, whips it upper 90. I mean, really, really nice job by her to find the back of the net. She should have had another goal on that little breakaway that she had. I think it's the Ashlyn Harris getting in her head, not being able to do
Yeah.
that one. And then Marissa Everett getting another goal there in this one. But Portland remaining on top in these standings. These standings are tight. They're moving around. But after tonight, Portland gets another couple of points and they stay at the top.
Yeah, they are. It's impressive to see, and we're gonna be paying attention to it because that's our job. I know there's a lot. It's for some teams they're like, hey, we're still not really super paying attention to those standings yet. There's gonna be some clubs out there that are like, a lot of these standings are really gonna come in and shake out probably in that final third stretch of games
Which is
for this
true.
season. And it is true. We see it. We see it all
However,
the time.
a
We see it
lot of
all the
those
time.
teams saying that are the ones that aren't getting the points week in and week out. I'm
Hey,
just saying.
but it also has truth to it. I mean, we see how these
Mhm.
we've seen in the past with regular seasons in NWSL and how they really can sort of take shape over the final really 8 to 6 weeks of the season. So we'll see. For now, Orlando keeping things interesting. They're dropping in the standings, but they ended out this night with a little bit of fight, had themselves a goal in stoppage time once again, late stoppage time. And hopefully, Marissa Vigiano is a player who ended up getting this late goal. So hopefully she is getting a little bit closer to being more informed. I know she's been working her way back also from injury. Again, Orlando being hit a little bit with this injury, but kind of at a tough time during this Olympic stretch where it really is anybody's game week in and week out. But that midfield can really use some help. And I think that's a player that can really kind of shore some things up for them. So we'll see what happens next week. For now, my gosh, these standings, folks. We've got Portland Thorns number 1 with 19 points, Chicago Red Stars at number 2 with 17 points. And we've got a 4-way tie from 3 to 6 to round out the top 6 playoff positions with Houston Dash, Gotham FC, Orlando Pride, and North Carolina Courage. Washington Spirit fall to number 7. Racing Louisville FC on their bye week are at number 8 now. OL Reign sit at number 9, and Kansas City NWSL remain in 10th place right now. So still a narrow table, still a lot of season left to go. Quick reminder for everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you as always. So here's your reminder to follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast. We're also available as video. So please subscribe to us on YouTube. Just visit youtube.com/Attacking Third. We'll be back Wednesday with more of some news and notes around the league and perhaps a little bit of information on the Olympics, because those are kicking off very, very soon. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.